Well, at the end of the day, people know that we are stretched, and the players have been superb, I think, in their attitude of getting on with it. Sometimes when groups lose, the players and good players, it can affect their sort of feeling towards what the challenge is in front of them. But I don't think that's been the case. The players worked really hard in the last games to get something from them games, and Sheffield United as well. They're a good side. They've shown that, and I thought we put up a good performance. And on another day, if we took our chances, would have took the win. So, yeah, overall, I'm really pleased with the way the players are going about it.
When you talk about a stretch, is that stretch going to carry on, or is there any kind of green shoots in terms of recovery? I know you gave some game time, obviously, to Chris and Johan.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think Ben Mee and Corky are going to be out for a bit now, so I don't think they're going to get back quickly. I don't know necessarily they'll miss all the games. I think Corky probably will. Ben maybe has got a chance, but yeah, it's one of them unfortunate things. Well, I say unfortunate. Let's face it; it could have come at a time we weren't in the shape we were in. At the end of the day, you can quickly forget we're at 46 points, our second highest total we've ever had in the Premier League. So, we've achieved that so far with these challenges. Now, if these challenges would have come before we had a good run of 7 without a defeat, then things could have been different. So, we don't want to cry it in too much. These injuries and different challenges have come at a time when we've got good points on the table. So, like I say, there is a balance to the situation.
And I know trust is a big word in your kind of vocabulary when you talk about players. And if you look at Kevin Long, I guess he typifies that, doesn't he? That you can trust and bring him, and he's not going to let you down. Yeah,
I think so. I think Longy's done well. I think Josh Brownhill's getting his first games in the Premier League and done well and played in 2 different positions. Eric Peters, the fantastic professional that he is, put him anywhere on the pitch, he gets on with it. I always say a great attitude is everything. Without that, you can't maximise things. And I think the players here have got a great attitude towards whatever's put in front of them. And it doesn't always go our way, of course, but we often make it go our way when we can.
How does that affect things with this West Ham game coming up as the first of 4 games in 10 days? You say you're stretched already. Is it just kind of easing them through each game and not doing too much on the training ground then?
Yeah, that's the biggest challenge, is finding the appropriate amount to keep them motivated and ticking over physically whilst getting through all these games, and I think that is one of the challenges. I think you mentioned earlier, we have got Woody now. He came on the other day. I mean, we can't get him reserve team football, quite obviously. So they're lacking in real match sharpness. But Woody, Johan and Robbie Brady. So at least that's kind of softening it slightly. But we can't, well, it'd be foolish, I think, to just throw them back in, without any kind of training spells. So, Woody's done well. He's got back quicker than we thought. Johan's been up and down with sort of niggly calves. So we've got to be careful with him. With Robbie as well. So, that is the challenge. Even when we're getting players fit, it's difficult to just throw them straight into a Premier League game without having hardly any football. So, but we will have to use them, obviously, to maximise the group.
And Ben Gibson doesn't come into the reckoning?
His situation hasn't changed really. The only thing that's changed is this, COVID situation where it's been pushed back. We were always going to reevaluate in the summer. I appreciate it is the summer now, but you understand the train of thought at the end of the season. We were always going to reevaluate that, so we will do.
You mentioned Eric Peters there, the kind of handball at the weekend when we saw what happened at Old Trafford with Adam Smith. Did you think you kind of got away with one, or were you due one of those?
I don't really know. I think there's that many strangenesses with handball now. I mean, the one the other day with Sheffield United, wasn't it, with Tottenham that's bizarre to me. I'm a big fan of the technology in the game, but I do think there's a time when even the rules have to go out the window. And we had the VAR incident with the ball going over the line, and if there's a rule in place but there's an obvious error, then I think the human element has to come into it, not the rule book. And I think handball is a really odd or in an odd place at the minute. I don't think I think every referee, every person who thinks of handball has a different opinion. So I do think it's tricky. I think it is difficult. With the referees making decisions, whether it's through VAR or when the game is live.
And there's a lot of analysis between how the game's working with drinks breaks. Are you now managing kind of 4 quarters rather than 2 halves?
Yeah, I don't see the drink break thing, got to be honest. Don't see that. Only on a hot day, which we've always kind of had in place. Referees would use their sense. If it's, a randomly, bizarrely hot day, then that's fair, obviously. We don't want any trouble, and hydration's a massive thing in sport of all kinds. So, but I think it's a bit over-egged to me personally. trust me, I'm looking out the window in my office. It's about 13 degrees and shelling it down. So don't really think you'd be needing a drinks break, to be honest. But c'est la vie.
But is it giving people a chance to have a team talk as opposed to kind of half time and before the game? Is it giving you a chance to kind of reassess things and change your strategy?
Well, the idea was for the drinks break. It is actually a drinks break, but we have seen that it's like a tactical break all of a sudden. But I think everyone's just trying to get on with it. So, like I said, I'm not too fussed with it all. It's it's different people are trying to use it in different ways, but I think the intention was to just get some drinks down people and then get on with it.
But I imagine in terms of getting your message across to the players, not having the fans there is one of the advantages there, isn't it? Because I mean, everyone in the stadium who is there and lucky enough to be there can hear what you're doing.
Well, to be honest, you can get the messages onto the pitch much easier with no one in the stadium anyway. So I don't necessarily think that's relevant to just use or sort of a line that the drinks break is like that, because you can easily get information on now without the fans in the stadium. So when the fans are in the stadium, it's not so easy, of course, and especially when you're in the bigger stadiums or there's a really good atmosphere to any given game. So yeah, I don't think the drinks break is just be used for that. I think you can get information on anyway.
No, I wasn't trying to link the two. I was just trying to say that it's easier for you throughout the game with no one there to obviously tell players what they need to do because they can hear you.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And I've always been vocal as a coach and a manager, so I think that is helpful at times when you can get the information on, clearer than what you normally would do.
What do you make of last night? There was a bit of a bust-up between the Spurs players. Jose said it was beautiful and said he wanted it from it showed that they cared. What's your score?
I didn't actually see it last night. It's one of the rare games I haven't seen so far. I've watched so many. No, seriously, me and Wodie were talking about it the other day. We must have watched, I think we watched every game on Saturday. I think we watched every game back to back. So, it's a rare that I missed a game, so I didn't see it.
But in terms of players telling each other what they're doing, I guess that's to be encouraged, isn't it, when there's communication?
Yeah, I think any communication is better than none. Even whatever the situation is, it's got to help.
And in terms of West Ham, finally, how do you kind of assess them? I mean, back at Turf Moor, I think one of your 3-3 so far this season and on home ground. So it was a comfortable day for you. But clearly they're fighting for their lives still at the bottom, aren't they? Yeah,
of course. And they've got some very good players. They've had their ups and downs and topsy-turvy sort of nature of a Premier League season by their standards. But that's how difficult the Premier League is. Like I said, with ourselves, 46 points at this stage is no mean feat for clubs like ourselves. And, West Ham are a big club with a big sort of feel to the club. But they know how tricky the Premier League is themselves. So they've definitely got good players. They haven't always put it together this season. We hope they don't when we play them, obviously. And we hope we do. And I think there's always that element to any Premier League game is you've got to have a strong day and you want them to have a quiet day and then you can look after yourselves. But we've been competitive in all games. So I'm really sticking to our group, just finding that competitive nature and that competitive edge. That's what we'll be looking to take down now.
Do you chuckle about the kind of open debate about Europe and whether Burnley can get there and whether it's good for Burnley? People are sort of saying, well, maybe it's not, but it's nice to be in the argument, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a sign of sort of a show of respect in some ways, that we continue to find a way to win games and stay in and around the thinking in the Premier League. And, if you think sort of 11 games ago, that wasn't the case. The noise was considerably different about what we were trying to achieve this season. So we've come through that spell, which most teams have a tough spell in the Premier League at some point. And then to be sort of on the edge of things, talking about Europe and things like that is pleasing for the group and for myself.
Hi, Sean. You mentioned about the Premier League record total that you've had in history so far as well. So it's obviously on your radar. So what would that mean if you could get that extra 9 points that would mean the best ever Premier League total for Burnley?
I'm only really referencing it because, you do lose sight sometimes of where you're at and what you're trying to achieve, and even as managers you do, we've worked very hard to get the points on the board. If we had a full squad, I think it would be a more simplistic challenge in the sense of, changing the team, allowing the team to be as fit and as possible because you can make them changes. Unfortunately, we have been limited. So within that, it's not to forget the points that we have got. And hopefully we're going to build on that with more points, quite obviously.
And the clean sheets as well, the most clean sheets since the 50s for a top flight season in Burnley already. Potentially Nick Pope with the Golden Glove. It's another tick in the box for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it was unfortunate the other day. I thought, it was we defended very well against Sheffield United and just got caught on a sort of a bit of fortune for them on a set piece. So, he could have well took another clean sheet. But I think Popey knows it's not just down to Popey. I think we ask a lot of our players defensively all over the pitch, starting with the centre forwards. I remember when I was younger, Ian Rush, one of the best centre forwards defending wise I've ever seen. His ability to break the play up from a high position was an important thing. And I always think, centre forwards should be working both ways. In possession, obviously, trying to score goals, but in out of possession, I think ours do. So I think it really is a collective effort. But it is fair to say that Popey's a very, very good goalkeeper. So if they do break down our system, we've got someone who can stop it going into the net.
Just finally, if I may, just in terms of the injuries, with Ben, obviously, until the end of the season, that's just 2.5 weeks or so, isn't it? So what's the longer term with Ben, and will Jack need that surgery that you were talking about, do you think?
Yeah, I think Jack's going to need a minor surgery, it looks like. I'll find out more today, actually, confirmation on that, because we haven't had our meeting yet. We're training this afternoon, so we haven't had our meeting yet. But I'll find out exact confirmation on that. And Ben Mee's got a thigh strain. So we've had it scanned and stuff, so we know what it is. It's just now settling it down and getting it going again. But like you say, with such a short period now for the games, it's unlikely that them two are going to make the games.
And potentially, obviously, next season could start not too far after it. I'm just thinking about Matt and Ash as well, where they are.
Yeah, I think Barnes is back on the grass again now, which is promising, of course. So we'll see where he can take that. Yet again, I'm not sure whether he'll get, 2.5 weeks is a big ask to try and get them fit, if they've not been fit. So he's making progress again now. And with Corky and Ben, I'm not envisaging at this moment that it rolls into next season. I think they'll be fit and well, over the coming weeks, ready for, depending on the dates. We still don't know the exact date. But if it is a kind of September start, then I think that would be favourable for them players.
Thank you.
Thank you.
David from Pierre. Hi, Sean. Just one from me. How do you feel about playing sides who are scrapping for their lives at the bottom end of the table when you bear in mind, your relative safety? I know you're going for Europe, but they're actually scrapping for their Premier League survival.
Well, we've done that ourselves. Every year's a fight for us to do what we do. So, I've been in that situation. I know it's tough. I know a lot of it comes down to individual performances, but it's equally a collective performance. So, we know how that feels when you're working hard down there. There's an edge on every game, as there always is, but particularly if you're down there, because it means a lot. It means a lot to the Premier League to stay in the Premier League and to have the Premier League status, both with finance but also the kudos, what it brings to your club and the players and all of their careers. So, it is tough for the teams down there, but having been down there ourselves at varying times, then we know what it's about. But we'll be just playing hard ourselves. We haven't got time to worry about everyone else. We've got to get on with our own games.
Does that give them maybe an extra edge, then, do you think? Or
does it give
them an extra edge tomorrow night, do you think?
It can work either way. Some teams rise to it. Some teams suffer underneath it. It's on any given day. I mean, West Ham look to me like they're very motivated. They've pulled out a couple of big results and, they're still a good side. I know that. Just using them as an example. But the other teams down there, like I say, it can motivate you and it sometimes crushes you. You've got to find a way of dealing with both things. Motivated enough to go and win a game and take away the pressure enough to not feel it, that it affects your performance. So, it is tricky, but we'll see what the season brings for all of them. We can only worry about ourselves.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alex James.
Morning, Sean.
Morning.
You all right?
Yeah.
Good. Just and Crabber's mentioned Matt Lighton there briefly on the injury front. Whereabouts is he up to, and do you envisage him being back before the end of the season?
Yeah, I doubt it. He's another one. I think it's unlikely. It's settling down, but I think it's unlikely. He's got a chance, but I don't think so. And, we'll be in that situation as well where it would depend on when the date is for next season. Obviously, we'll have to make a call as well because we're not going to, with the points we've got, we're not going to rush people back in for what might be 1 or 2 games and then affect next season. So we've got to be careful with that as well.
Yeah, and just quickly on Ben Gibson, obviously you're down to 2 fit senior centre-halves now. I know you said they'd reassess in the summer. That hasn't changed despite these injury situations. You don't envisage bringing him back to feature at all in the next 3 or 4 weeks. Right? Just on the academy as well, the news come out yesterday about the academy getting to Category 1. Obviously, you've had a few youngsters involved in the last couple of weeks through necessity in some ways. But how important is that news for the club as a whole? And do you think it can be a realistic to see players breaking through on perhaps a little bit more regular basis than we've seen over the last maybe decade or more here?
It's not that easy. The things with academy systems, you still need the raw ingredients going in. You still need players who are at a certain ability level to then coach them and improve them, or help to coach and improve them further. So you put the right system in, it doesn't guarantee that the players come out. There's lots of clubs who have got amazing youth systems who are not turning out players every year. So it's not quite that simple. There has been a lot of good work done with the structure here of the youth system, and it needed it. But it does take time. So I think it will be a time-bound thing to see, how it continues to operate and what players can come through the system.
I guess it's got to help though, hasn't it? Having that Category 1 status, going into a different games programme and perhaps being able to bring in players as well, make more of attraction for Burnley.
Yeah, well, they're the things that we'll wait and see. I think the status thing is purely status. It's actually delivering on the system, not just having the tag. I think you've got to deliver on the system. So that'll be the next question for us. Are we delivering within the system at Category 1 status?
You mentioned now, obviously, the uncertainty as to exactly when the Premier League might start next season, and we're still not 100% sure, I don't think, on the transfer window parameters, and you've spoken about that in the last couple of weeks as well. Looking at recruitment, Will, one of the main aims for you, obviously, to bring in the right players at the right price if you can, but are you taking perhaps extra attention on the age of players at the minute, given the sort of profile ages of your squad? You've got a number of them that are over 30, and by no means writing them off, by the way, but just in the sort of the future-proofing stage.
I'm sure they'll be delighted.
Not at all. But just that sort of long-term future-proofing of the continued development that you've managed to do with the likes of Taki when he came in initially.
It's a really simple situation. Very good players who are young cost a lot of money. It's really simple. So unless you can bring them through your system, quite obviously, with people like Dwight McNeil and J-Rod back in the day, then it costs a lot of money. So that's a really simple equation.
You have managed to do it though. I mean, Josh Brownhill's another example, a player at a good age. I know he's stepping up, but he's come in and sort of hit the ground running a little bit in the last few weeks. So it is possible to do it within the sort of budget restraints you face.
Yeah, well, Josh is learning about the Premier League, but he's made a good start. We like what he's about as a lad as well as a player. I don't think anything's impossible in football, but the possibilities get tougher. When you're thinking, so Josh was, in a swap deal, don't forget, with Naki Wells. So, the actual fee is about £4 million. You're not getting much for £4 million nowadays, trust me. The ability to get the right players, get them in the building, get them working, get them adjusted to the Premier League, and then to do it times 5 at a time, trust me, that is really difficult. So we work as diligently, as hard as we can. And you still need the experienced lads as well to allow them the chance to grow into the Premier League. They still need good players around them. And I think we've got very good players here, regardless of age profiles. And at the end of the day, there's simple economics. Older players tend to be cheaper. Simple as that. Whereas younger players are expensive. We all know that. So, that's one that I consistently speak with the board and the chairman about. That's the balance. If you want a more recognised player, older but more experienced, usually, not always, they're cheaper. And if you want the same quality of player but younger, they're very expensive. Not rocket science for this.
Just lastly then, given what you've said there, is perhaps extending the contracts of the likes of Jack Cork, Ashley Westwood as much of a priority and as important as bringing new faces into the building?
Everything is important, as discussed recently by myself.
Thank you.